The story of Jinger Duggar and Jeremy Voulo's marriage combines their distinct religious beliefs, public scrutiny, cultural norms, and the development of two people navigating life together, while being the subject of evangelical celebrity and reality TV. In addition to reflecting their own views and values, their journey from courting to marriage and family life also touches on more general topics of identity, change, and the difficulties of leading a private life while in the spotlight. Born on December 23, 1993, Jinger Duggar was the ninth of 19 children in the Duggar family, which became well-known thanks to the TLC reality show 19 Kids and Counting, which was later renamed Counting On. The Duggar family was raised in a very conservative Christian home, and followed the doctrine of the Institute in Basic Life Principles, a fundamentalist group that places a strong emphasis on traditional gender roles, humility, courtship over dating, and parental authority. These values influenced Jinger from a young age, and would eventually impact her views on relationships, religion, and self-expression. Born in Naperville, Illinois, on August 19, 1985, Jeremy Voulo was also raised in a pious Christian household. Although it was also based in evangelical Christianity, his upbringing was different from Jinger's in terms of structure and focus. After graduating from the Baptist Bible Seminary with a Master of Divinity, Jeremy continued his theological education by attending the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. He subsequently worked as an assistant pastor at a church in Waco, Texas, after being called to ministry. His theology training and love of the Bible made him a guy who was devoted to his faith and to helping others with their spiritual needs. The conservative Christian courtship technique that the Duggar family preferred brought Jinger Duggar and Jeremy Voulo together. In contrast to conventional dating, courtship in this context is a planned procedure in which a man first asks a woman's father for approval before pursuing a romantic connection. As a covenant before God, it places a strong emphasis on accountability, purity, and becoming ready for marriage. Following Jinger's 20th birthday in 2013, her parents, Bob and Michelle Duggar, started looking at possible partners. Jinger had not expressed interest in any particular person at the time, and the family continued to court cautiously in accordance with their values. After meeting the Duggars through mutual contacts in the conservative Christian community, Jeremy Voulo showed interest in dating Jinger. Permission was given for Jeremy to start courting Jinger following conversations with Bob Duggar, and a time of prayer and consideration. This process was not quick or rash. Rather, it developed gradually, with family members frequently monitoring or guiding communication, particularly in the beginning. The family's emphasis on emotional purity and humility was shown in the frequent use of letters, phone conversations, and supervised visits. Both Jinger and Jeremy have stated in interviews and in writings that their relationship was motivated by a desire to create a God-centered marriage and a shared faith. Jinger's quiet strength, knowledge, and dedication to her principles drew Jeremy in. Jeremy's theological expertise, spiritual development, and sincere desire to serve God via marriage and ministry were all valued by Jinger. Their relationship developed via discussions of scripture, prayer, and their goals for a life devoted to Christian service rather than via extravagant romantic gestures. Following months of romance, Jeremy Voulo proposed to Jinger Duggar on June 21, 2014, in a private moment at the Tontitown, Arkansas, home of the Duggar family. In keeping with their ideals, the proposal was straightforward and thoughtful. At the period, there were no ostentatious exhibitions or public declarations. Rather, the couple concentrated on seeking God's will and becoming ready for what was ahead. Fans of the Counting On series took notice when the engagement was later made public on the Duggar family's website and social media accounts. The Duggar family home served as the venue for the private ceremony on November 1, 2014. Close friends and family attended the occasion, demonstrating the couple's preference for spiritual meaning and intimacy over showmanship. A clergyman and family friend officiated the ceremony, and their vows demonstrated their dedication to a marriage based on Christ. The celebration included straightforward cuisine, music, and camaraderie, and Jinger wore a modest, custom-made outfit that complied with the family's modesty norms. The marriage between Jinger and Jeremy was notable from the start in the Duggar family story. Jeremy presented a distinct viewpoint with his education, eloquence, and strong interest in theological discussions, although the other Duggar siblings had married men from similar conservative backgrounds. His position as a pastor gave the marriage a new perspective and positioned the couple as a team with a common ministry calling rather than just another Duggar couple. When Jinger and Jeremy first got married, they lived in Waco, Texas, where Jeremy worked as a pastoral minister. Previously recognized mainly as a Duggar daughter, Jinger started to take charge of her own identity. She began writing about faith, modesty, and Christian life on her blog, Jinger Speaks. Her writing demonstrated her increasing self-assurance and willingness to express her opinions in her own words. She also started giving speeches at Christian gatherings and women's conferences, frequently with Jeremy, where they put up a united front on topics like biblical womanhood, marriage, and purity. But their public persona also drew criticism. They received a lot of media attention because they were part of the Duggar family, especially after Josh Duggar's previous wrongdoing was made public in 2015. Widespread criticism of the Duggars' parenting, theology, and situational management resulted from the controversy, which clouded the entire family. Even though they weren't directly involved, Jinger and Jeremy ended up defending their faith and family in public appearances and interviews. The pair started to quietly change their public persona in response. They began to articulate a more sophisticated view of grace, responsibility, and the intricacies of faith, even as they maintained their Christian convictions. Jeremy specifically used his position to discuss the perils of legalism in conservative Christianity, as well as themes of forgiveness and repentance. Jinger also started talking more candidly about her own experiences, such as her battles with anxiety, and the pressure to live up to expectations. The couple's transfer from Waco to Los Angeles, California, in 2017 marked a major turning point in their marriage. Jeremy's desire to broaden their ministry's reach and pursue additional theological education was the driving force behind the choice. In sharp contrast to the isolated world of the Duggar family in Arkansas, Los Angeles, a city renowned for its diversity, liberalism, and entertainment sector, symbolized a cultural transformation. Many followers expressed astonishment and doubt at the relocation, wondering how a conservative Christian couple could succeed in such a setting. However, the move was a conscious move toward development and interaction with a wider environment for Jinger and Jeremy. Jeremy enrolled in a Doctor of Ministry program with an emphasis on apologetic and cultural involvement. In the meantime, Jinger started experimenting with new media and fashion modes of expression. She started a YouTube channel where she recounted her life story, talked about her spiritual path, and covered subjects including parenthood, modesty, and personal growth. Even though she was still modest by society's standards, her fashion choices changed to reflect a fusion of current aesthetics and faith-based principles. This change was not without its detractors. When Jinger started wearing jeans, exposing her shoulders, and interacting with mainstream society, some conservative supporters accused her of sacrificing her values. Jinger retorted that modesty is about heart posture and respecting God in every situation, not about strict restrictions. She discussed the value of discernment, cultural sensitivity, and eschewing legalism. The notion that one must earn one's salvation or spiritual value by rigorously adhering to rules. She had encouragement from Jeremy along this journey, who frequently emphasized the importance of living a faith-filled life with grace and truth. He contested the idea that cultural customs, not biblical precepts, should define Christianity in his sermons and interviews. He promoted a faith that is grounded in the Bible and active in society, able to reach out to individuals from all walks of life. Their impact increased along with their public visibility. Jinger gained popularity as a speaker and author because of her skillful defense of Christian principles and encouragement of humility and compassion. Jeremy gained appreciation for his pastoral sensitivity and theological depth as he carried on with his teaching and pastoral work. Together, they offered a marriage paradigm that prioritized cooperation, respect for one another, and a common goal. The couple's first child, a daughter they called Felicity, was born in 2018. With the birth, their priorities shifted from public speaking and preaching to family and parenting, ushering in a new era. Jinger candidly documented the pleasures and difficulties of parenthood on social media. She discussed the need for grace in the face of imperfection, the physical and emotional strain of childbirth, and the role that faith plays in parenting. Their changing views were reflected in their parenting philosophy. They stressed emotional intelligence, open communication, and age-appropriate freedom, while remaining steadfast in their commitment to raising their kids in the Christian faith. They favored a loving, grace-centered approach over the severe disciplinary measures occasionally connected to the IBLP. This change was apparent in the way they discussed parenting as a journey of love and discipleship rather than as a control exercise. During the global COVID-19 epidemic in 2020, Jinger and Jeremy encountered additional difficulties. They had to deal with lockdowns, homeschooling, and the stress of loneliness like many other families. However, they made use of the opportunity to strengthen their ties to one another and to their beliefs. They started a podcast called The Vuolos in which they offered Christian viewpoints on marriage, parenting, and current affairs. They were able to establish a more intimate connection with the audience through the podcast, having open discussions about their challenges, uncertainties, and aspirations. Jinger also started talking more candidly about her path away from some of the more radical lessons she had been taught during this time. In her 2022 autobiography, Becoming Free Indeed, My Story of Disentangling Faith from Fear, she described how she went about reassessing the doctrines she had been taught, especially those pertaining to gender norms, spiritual abuse, and fear-based theology. She explained how she had started to doubt the control and legalism that defined several aspects of the IBLP doctrine over the years. She set out on a theological and emotional healing journey with Jeremy's help, hoping to re-establish her faith on a basis of grace rather than fear. An important turning point in her public career was the book. It was a stark contrast to the story of blind obedience that had characterized the Duggar family's reputation. Jinger discussed the strain she experienced as a child, the dearth of access to a thorough education, and the psychological effects of living under continual surveillance in her book Becoming Free Indeed. She also talked about the effects of the Jed Duggar incident, expressing her sorrow and loss as well as the hurt it caused to their family and the society at large. Her recuperation was greatly aided by Jeremy. Jinger gives him credit in the book for providing a secure environment in which she was able to reflect, question, and develop. Instead of pressuring her to fit in, he urged her to pursue the truth and grow closer to God. She claimed that their marriage turned into a safe haven where she felt free to be open, vulnerable, and honest. Both favorable and unfavorable reviews of the memoir were widely distributed. Numerous readers commended Jinger for her bravery and integrity, viewing her experience as a potent illustration of escaping destructive religious structures. Others chastised her for what they saw as a rejection of biblical ideals, especially in the conservative Christian community. She was accused of betraying her faith and family by some. In a gracious response, Jinger and Jeremy affirmed their dedication to Christ while admitting that faith might take on different forms at different phases of life. They underlined that dismantling false ideas can be a necessary component of spiritual maturation, and is not the same as giving up faith. They persisted in discussing the value of love, humility, and listening to others despite differences in viewpoint. The couple's second child, a son they named Wiley, was born in 2021. With her usual candor, Jinger talked about the new delight and hardships that came with the birth. She discussed postpartum challenges, the challenge of juggling personal objectives with parenthood, and the value of support and community. In an effort to dispel myths about distant or authoritarian parenting, Jeremy also started speaking out more on the need of fathers in providing emotional support and nurture. Their Los Angeles family life kept changing. They mentored young couples, participated in outreach initiatives, and got active in their local church communities. Additionally, they kept up a robust online presence, sharing their experience on social media and through their podcast. Their writing frequently combined religious contemplation with personal tales, providing a well-rounded viewpoint that appealed to a broad readership. Their collaboration approach is one of their marriage's most noteworthy features. Jinger and Jeremy's relationship is more egalitarian than the strict gender stereotypes that were frequently encouraged in their childhood. They view biblical marital teachings through the prisms of love, shared responsibility, and mutual submission, even as they appreciate them. Jinger affirms Jeremy's leadership and offers her own talents and perspectives, while Jeremy supports Jinger's career and public ministry. This dynamic has been observed. The Vuolos present an alternative perspective in a time when discussions about gender, power, and religion are becoming more and more prevalent. This vision loves faith without compromising authenticity, and respects tradition without being constrained by it. Although they don't claim to know everything, they serve as an example of a marriage based on respect, progress, and humility. The power of transformation is also demonstrated by their narrative. Once seen as the most reserved of the Duggar daughters, Jinger has developed into a self-assured, well-spoken individual with a distinct voice. Once thought of mostly as a pastor with a well-known wife, Jeremy is now known for his theological depth and pastoral heart. Together, they have created a life that goes beyond the confines of their history and embraces a future characterized by love, service, and purpose. In 2024, Jinger and Jeremy are still figuring out the intricacies of marriage, kids, and public life. They are still dedicated to their family, their faith, and their goal of spreading the gospel of truth and grace. Public scrutiny, theological disputes, and life's daily stresses are some of the difficulties they confront on their path, but they do so together, rooted in their strong bonds and common beliefs. Their marriage is a tale of development rather than perfection. It is the tale of two individuals who started out in a very regulated setting and have now created a genuine and free space for themselves via love, faith, and support for one another. It serves as a reminder that love, when based on respect and grace, can withstand even the most trying times, that relationships may be both traditional and flexible, and that faith can adapt. Jinger Duggar and Jeremy Voulo's union serves as a subdued counter-narrative in a world where celebrity marriages sometimes result in scandal or divorce. It is steady and genuine rather than ostentatious or spectacular. It shows a dedication to a higher calling that values honesty, compassion, and the continuous process of becoming who God has intended people to be, in addition to a commitment to one another. The decisions they make every day to listen, learn, love, and lead with humility continue to define their tale. By doing this, they provide a compelling illustration of what a marriage can be: a holy alliance of two flawed individuals working together to achieve something more than themselves rather than a show for the outside world. Jinger and Jeremy have also grown to be Christian community activists for mental health awareness over the years. Jinger has been candid about her battles with anxiety, a subject that is rarely brought about in the conservative circles of her childhood. She has underlined how crucial it is to get expert assistance, take care of oneself, and recognize mental health as an essential component of general well-being. Jeremy has backed Sarah in her crusade, urging churches to establish shame-free forums where individuals can discuss emotional and psychological challenges. In areas where emotional vulnerability is frequently interpreted as a sign of weak faith, their candor has been especially helpful in dispelling stigmas. By sharing their own stories of Jinger's nervousness, Jeremy's periods of uncertainty, and spiritual desolation, they have set an example of an honest, strong, and caring religion. They remind their audience that you may be a Christian and still be human, that you can trust God and still need treatment, and that you can have strong beliefs and still struggle. Their dedication to cultural participation is another important facet of their marriage. They are frequently exposed to a variety of worldviews, lifestyles, and belief systems because they live in Los Angeles. Instead of withdrawing into seclusion, they have made the decision to interact politely and deliberately. They use their platform to advance understanding rather than division, attend cultural events, and develop friendships with people of different ideologies. Jeremy frequently discusses the value of being in the world but not of the world, highlighting the idea that Christians are obligated to love their neighbors regardless of their differences. Jinger has also adopted this way of thinking. She has said she admires activists, artists, and philosophers who show compassion, bravery, and inventiveness despite not being religious. She thinks that Christians shouldn't be afraid to interact with the wider culture since beauty and truth can be discovered in unexpected places. This viewpoint, always filtered via judgment but never closed off, has impacted her parenting, media intake, and fashion choices. Their mutual dedication to compassion and fairness has also influenced their marriage. They have defended the weak, spoken out against racism, and backed pro-life causes. They stress that faith must be lived out in action. Even though their beliefs are based in conservative theology, They encourage their viewers to serve their communities, support foster care projects, and volunteer at shelters. For them, marriage is about changing the world, not just about creating a life together. The foundation of Jinger and Jeremy's marriage endures despite all of these factors: faith, family, public life, and personal development.